We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings, secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, would interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
Welcome to Conspiracy Corner Podcast, everyone. This is Abe, your host. Happy 4th of July. Today is July 5th, 2024. Hope everyone had a good 4th of July. If you're American. If you're listening and you're not American, welcome to the channel. Mine was pretty good. Went and met up with some family members, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, and we all had Chinese at a restaurant. So that was cool. And then went and watched fireworks later on. And my silly butt left the door open to the car and killed the battery. So we had to get a jump to go home. But besides that, it was a good 4th of July. I think it's been years since I actually got to enjoy fireworks and stuff. Probably about maybe 3 years or something like that. Usually I think I'm working, so. But today we're going to be doing some more Leave the World Behind. I have to say, when it comes to this book, I have a couple issues with it that I don't like. Because this is basically an audiobook with commentary. I'm not big on... I feel like the author is trying to sound smart by using crazy big words that I've never even heard before. And as someone who's a bookworm and reads a lot all the time, I don't know. That's the vibe I get. And also, so far, he never really says a lot who says what. I'm used to that. And it actually sounds better if you're reading it aloud, like, so-and-so said this, so-and-so said that. But besides those two frustrations, I mean, it's okay. It's not bad. So here's chapter 3. Amanda volunteered to go to the grocery. They'd passed a store, and she retraced that path. She drove slowly, windows down. The store was frigid, brightly lit, wide-aisled. She bought yogurt and blueberries. She bought sliced turkey, whole grain bread, that pebbly mud-colored mustard, and mayonnaise. She bought potato chips and tortilla chips and jarred salsa full of cilantro, even though Archie refused to eat cilantro. She bought organic hot dogs and inexpensive buns and the same ketchup everyone bought. She bought cold, hard lemons and seltzer and Tito's vodka and 2 bottles of $9 red wine. She bought dried spaghetti and salted butter and a head of garlic. She bought thick-cut bacon, 2-pound bag of flour, and $12 maple syrup in a faceted glass bottle like a tacky perfume. She bought a pound of ground coffee, so potent she could smell it through the vacuum seal. The size four coffee filters made of recycled paper. If you care, she cared. She bought a 3-pack of paper towels and a spray-on sunscreen and aloe because the children had inherited their father's pale skin. She bought those fancy crackers you put out when there were guests and Ritz crackers, which everyone liked best, and crumbly white cheddar cheese, and extra garlicky hummus, and an unsliced hard salami, and those carrots that are rumbled around until they're the size of a child's fingers. She bought packages of cookies from Pepperidge Farm and 3 pints of Ben & Jerry's, politically virtuous ice cream. Yeah, like I said, the author is like pretty sure he's woke, you know. And a Duncan Hines box mix for a yellow cake, and a Duncan Hines tub of chocolate frosting with a red plastic lid, because parenthood had taught her that on a vacation's inevitable rainy day, you could while away an hour by baking a boxed cake. She bought 2 tumescent zucchini, a bag of snap peas, a bouquet of curling kale, so green it was almost black. She bought a bottle of olive oil, and a box of Entenmann's crumb-topped donuts, and a bunch of bananas, and a bag of white nectarines, and 2 plastic packages of strawberries, a dozen brown eggs, a plastic box of pre-washed spinach, a plastic container of olives, some heirloom tomatoes wrapped in crinkly cellophane, marbled green and shocking orange. She bought 3 pounds of ground beef and 2 packages of hamburger buns, their bottoms dusty with flour, and a jar of locally made pickles. She bought 4 avocados and 3 limes and a sandy bundle of cilantro, even though Archie refused to eat cilantro. It was more than $200, but never mind. So, sounds like, honestly, they're going to be well prepared for what's coming with food, you know. I'm going to need some help. The man placing every item into the brown bags was maybe in high school, but maybe not. He wore a yellow t-shirt and had brown hair and an overall square effect, like he'd been carved from a block of wood. There was some stirring, watching his hands at work, but vacations did that. They made you made you horny, made everything seem possible, a life completely different than the one you normally inhabited. She, Amanda, might be a mother temptress sucking on a post-adolescence, oh, there you go, hot tongue in a parking lot of the Stop and Shop, or might just be another woman from the city spending too much money on too much food. So, okay, that was weird and random, but the boy, or maybe he was a man, put the bags into a cart and followed Amanda into the parking lot. Okay, so she's a pedophile. He loaded them into the trunk, and she gave him a $5 bill. She sat, the engine idling, to see if she had a cell phone service and the endorphin rush of the arriving emails. Jocelyn, their agency director, one of the clients. 2 missives sent to the entire office by the head project manager, who was almost as sexual as that flutter over the bag boy. There was nothing important happening at work, but it was a relief to know. So wait a second. Sorry. 2 missives sent to the entire office by the head project manager was almost... Okay, so she's saying, I guess, work is making her as horny? She gets horny from work? Weird. There was nothing important happening at work, but it was a relief to know that for certain, rather than worry that there was. Amanda turned on the radio. She half recognized the song that was playing. She stopped at the gas station and bought Clay a pack of Parliaments. They were on vacation. That night, after hamburgers and hot dogs and grilled zucchini, after bowls of ice cream with cookies crumbled on top of them, and maybe some sliced strawberries too, maybe they'd fuck. Not make love. That was for home. Fucking was for vacation. Sweaty and humid and tantalizingly foreign in someone else's Pottery Barn sheets, then go outside, slip into the heated pool, and let the water wash them clean, and smoke one cigarette each and talk about what you talked about after you'd been married for as long as they'd been. Finances, the children, fever dreams of real estate. How nice it would be to have a house like this all to their own. Or they'd talk about nothing, the other pleasure of a long marriage. They'd watch television. She drove back to the painted brick house. So that's chapter 3. And because I did watch the movie, that was actually the scene where you first see Kevin Bacon. He's supposed to be kind of like a conservative, right-wing, MAGA conspiracy theorist. You know, he's buying like a shit ton of water, and she thinks it's weird. Like, why is this dude buying all this water? So obviously that did not happen in the book. So interesting. Clay bound the towel around his waist. Chapter 4. The gesture of opening double doors was inherently grand. It was cold inside and very hot outside. The trees had been pruned to keep the shade from the pool. All that sun made you lightheaded. His damp feet left marks on the wooden floors. They melted away in seconds. Clay cut through the kitchen and out via the side door. He retrieved his cigarettes from the glove box, wincing at the gravel. He sat on the front lawn in the shade of a tree and smoked. He should feel bad about this, but tobacco was the foundation of the nation. Smoking tethered you to history itself. It was a patriotic act, or once had been, anyway, like owning slaves or killing the Cherokee. That's another thing. I'm not sure how much it'll get brought up in this book, but in the movie, the movie I felt like was trying to make a point on like slavery with the White Lion ship. We're actually going to do a whole side episode on that one of these days. I'm thinking once we actually read it in the book, then we'll get into that. Do a side episode on it. Unless it's not in the book, because so far there is some differences with the movie and the book. So we shall see, but even if it's not in the book, I'm still going to cover it because it's in the movie. And there's a whole history behind the White Lion ship. Yeah, I think we'll get into that. We'll get into, there's a QR code, so we'll cover that in one of the episodes. Like I said, this is a podcast / audiobook, so yeah, we're going to cover some side stuff, maybe some bonus episode type stuff. So, but it'll be free. It's not behind a paywall or nothing. It was pleasant to sit outside, near naked, the sun and air on your skin reminding you that you're just another animal. So there's some nihilistic thought that he doesn't believe in the whole, kind of like I believe that there's hierarchy of human and animal, that we are above animal. And you'll see that it's a kind of a nihilistic thinking pattern, I think. I've heard people say, oh, we're just animals, you know. And it's like, no, I'm more than an animal. I have a soul and morals, and yeah, sorry, I don't agree with that. Let's see. More than an animal. Where the fuck did I go? Okay, here it is. He could have sat there nude. There were no other houses. There were no signs of human life, save an honor system farm stand near a half a mile back. There had been a time they'd been so naked together. Archie, a wisp of bone and giggles, sharing the tub with his parents, but you grew out of that unless you were a hippie. He couldn't hear the children carrying on in the pool. The house between him and them was not so large, but the trees absorbed their noise as cotton might blood. Clay felt safe, contented, embraced, the rampart of hedge keeping the world at bay. As though he could see it, he pictured Amanda, adrift on an inflatable lounge, pretending dignity. Hard to do, even the duck lacks that somehow. The water's undulations always ridiculous, and reading L. So there's a book reference. I might have to write that down and look into that, like what that book's about. Give me just a second. So I googled it. Sounds like it's like a women's magazine. The author is a journalist, so it never said he wrote for them, but because he's already, if you remember last episode, he's already self-promoted. New Yorker or Newsweek or something. One of the companies he wrote for, but it looks like it's like a girl magazine. So I don't think there's anything super deep about that. But we are going to try to pay very close attention because there's lots of Easter eggs in the movie. And I think there's probably going to be, the book is going to be the same way with lots of little Easter eggs. So Clay unknotted the towel and lay back. The grass was itchy under his back. He stared at the sky, without really thinking about it, but also kind of thinking about it. His right hand wandered down the front of his J. Crew suit. He fumbled with his penis, gone cold and shy from the water. Vacations made you horny. So he's, I guess, horny too, just like his wife. Apparently vacations make them horny. Clay felt light, unfettered, though he was not fettered by much. He was supposed to be reviewing a book for the New York Times Book Review and had brought his laptop. He only needed 900 words. In a couple of hours, he'd put the family to bed, fill a tumbler with ice and vodka, sit shirtless on the deck, laptop illuminating the night, smoke cigarettes, and the thoughts would come out, and the 900 words would follow. Clay was diligent, but also, he knew it, a little lazy. He wanted to be asked to write for the New York Times Book Review, but didn't want to actually write anything. Clay had tenure, and Amanda had the title of director, but they did not have level floors and central air conditioning. The key to success was having parents who had succeeded. Still, they could pantomime ownership for a week. His penis jerked itself toward the sun, a yoga salutation, bouncing, then stiff at the house allure, marble countertops, and a miele washer, and Clay had a full erection. His oh my god, his dick hovering over his belly like the searching needle in a compass. Clay ground out his cigarette guiltily. He was never without breath mints or chewing gum. He tied the towel around his waist and went into the house. The garbage slid out on casters from beneath the countertops. Clay ran the butt under the faucet. Imagine if he burned the house down. Intrusive thought, I guess. Then buried it in the refuse. There was a lemon soap and a glass dispenser by the sink. From the window, he could see his family. Rose was lost in a game of her own. Archie was doing pull-ups on the diving board, hoisting his skinny body heavenward, his bony shoulders, the pink of undercooked meat. Sometimes, looking at his family, he was flooded with the desire to do for them. I'll build you a house or knit you a sweater, whatever is required. Pursued by wolves, I'll make a bridge of my body so you can cross that ravine. So it sounds like he's a decent dad, though. Unlike the Julia Roberts character, who's more, quite frankly, evil. They were all that mattered to him, but of course they didn't really understand that, because such was the parental contract. Clay found a baseball game on the radio, though he did not care about baseball. He thought the description comforting, the play-by-play, like being read a bedtime story. Honestly, that's why I like listening to talk radio and podcasts, you know. Same concept. He thought, Clay dumped 2 packages of the raw meat into a large bowl. Clay would eat 3 hamburgers and a diced white onion. Mix that in, pinch in some salt, ground in pepper, add Worcestershire sauce like daubing perfume onto a wrist. He molded the burgers and lined them up on a plate. Clay sliced cheddar cheese, halved the buns, The towel was slipping from his waist, so he washed the raw meat from his hands and tied it more tightly. He filled a glass bowl with potato chips and ferried the food outside. Every step felt familiar, like he'd been throwing together summertime meals in that kitchen all of his life. "Dinner in a bit," he called. No one acknowledged this. Clay switched on the propane, used the long lighter to make the flame catch. Half naked, he tended the raw meat, thinking he must resemble a caveman, some long-forgotten ancestor. Who was to say that one hadn't stood once on this very spot, millennia earlier, or even just centuries? Some shirtless Iroquois in a hide loincloth, stroking a fire that the flesh of his flesh might dine on flesh. The thought made him smile. So definitely tapping into that archaic, primitive, I don't know, barbecue, and there's something like very manly about it. You feel primitive almost doing it. I love to cook, personally. I don't really barbecue much, but I do love cooking. It kind of just makes me happy. But we'll get into chapter 5 after a little break. So yeah, it seems like each chapter so far has been about 10 minutes. So we'll probably do like, because I usually try to keep it in like 30-minute segments. And then after podcasting this, I'll draw up the title art and color it. And I'm off today, so I might actually maybe do like some more episodes. Just go ahead and just bank some episodes and put them out tomorrow. So chapter 5. They ate on the deck in a dishabille and assemblage with towels and garish colors and ketchup-stained paper napkins. Hamburgers the size of hockey pucks inside airy bread. Rose was particularly susceptible to the tart charms of vinegar potato chips, crumbs and grease on her chin. Amanda loved that Rose could still reach girlishness. Her mind was one thing, her body another. It was the hormones and the milk or the food chain or the water supply or the air or who knew. So there you go. A little conspiracy Easter eggs. Already talking about hormones and milk, hormones and water supply, which we've talked about that, I think, on this podcast before. I mean, we're almost 300 episodes, so it's kind of hard for me to remember, but pretty sure I've discussed that about how I think that causes girls to hit puberty earlier. Girls don't look the same that they used to look back in the 60s and 70s. I mean, I look at old photos of, family members back then of when they were teenagers, and it's like they all, quite frankly, look like sticks. And now you walk around and there's 13-year-olds who look like 20-year-olds. It's insane. And personally, as a conspiracy theorist, I think it's something to do with what they're putting in the food, and that's just me. For some reason, mankind, maybe it's just natural evolution or something, but girls don't look like girls anymore, not like they used to back in the day, Rose was particularly susceptible to the tart charms of vinegar, potato chips, crumbs and grease on her chin. Amanda loved that Rose could still reach girlishness. Her mind was one thing, her body another. It was, okay, we just read that. It was so hot that the parents didn't even bid their children shower. Let them sprawl on the gingham upholstered sofa in their fleshy bodies. Archie lank and Rose lush. Visible ribs and a constellation of moles, dimpled elbows, and a downy chin. Rose wanted to watch a cartoon, and Archie was secretly comforted by animation, wistful for his own youth. His skin prickled in the air-conditioning chill. The unfamiliar sofa was soft, and his mind and mouth felt thick and slow from the day's heat or exertion. He was too tired to get up for another hamburger, gone cold, doused in ketchup, which he'd eat standing up in the kitchen, the tile cold underfoot. In a minute, he thought, but his body was pleading with hunger from those hours in the pool, or maybe just the hours cooped up in the car. His body always felt this way. So this is still day one. Amanda went to shower. The thing was fixed in the ceiling. The water falling onto you as rain might. That actually sounds pretty awesome. A shower like that where it just falls straight down like rain. That sounds awesome, but it would be kind of hard to like soap up and stuff. I don't like water hitting me while I'm like lathering soap. Does that make sense? I feel like it would just rinse it off immediately, especially as a dude who like has to shave and stuff. Like that would be kind of annoying. She set it as hot as possible to banish the residue of the SPF lotion. That stuff always felt vaguely poisonous. An ounce of prevention, etc. So there we go with more conspiracy Easter eggs. She wore her hair neither short nor long, without bangs, which made her look youthful in a way that was good in an office environment. Two different kinds of vanity at odds, a desire to look capable rather than girlish. Amanda knew that she looked like the sort of woman she was. You could read it on her from a great distance. Her poise and posture, her clothes and grooming, all said who she was. Her body still contained the second-hand warmth of the sun. The pool water had barely been a respite. The tepidity of the bath water. Amanda's limbs felt thick and superb. She wanted to lie down and roll away into sleep. Her fingers strayed to the parts of herself where they felt best, in search of some internal pleasure, but something more cerebral. The confirmation that she, her shoulders, her nipples, her elbows, all of it existed. What a marvel to have a body, a thing that contained you. Vacation was for being returned to your body. Amanda wrapped her hair into a white towel like a woman in a certain kind of film. She spread lotion across her skin, pulled on the loose cotton pants she favored in bed, summertime, and an old t-shirt with a logo that no longer meant anything to her. It was impossible to keep track of the provenance of all their earthly possessions. The shirt's cotton, so worn that it shone. She felt alive, and, if not sexy, then sexual. The promise mattered more than the transaction. She still loved him, nothing like that. And he knew her body. It had been 18 years, of course. He knew it. But she was human, wouldn't have minded novelty. She peeked out of the door to the living room. Her children looked dazed, fatted, odalisque on a couch. Her husband was bent over his phone. Bed in 20 minutes. Amanda gave Clay a suggestive look, then closed the door behind her. She stepped out of her pants and into the cool percale of the bed. She did not draw the curtains. Let them watch, the deer, the owls, the stupid flightless turkeys. Admire Clay's still impressive latissimus dorsi. I'm guessing that's a body part. I don't know. He rode at the New York Sports Club twice weekly, which she loved to sink her fingers into, catch the pleasant stink of the hairy armpits, applaud the practiced flick of his tongue against her. The house was too far from the world to offer cellular service. But there was Wi-Fi, a preposterously long password, 018HGF234WRH357XIO, to keep out whom, the deer, the owls, the stupid flightless turkeys. She tapped the glass, spelling it out, random as Ouija or the Rosary. Then the thing took, and the emails arrived, piling the one on top of the other. 41. She felt so necessary, so missed. She felt so loved. In her personal account, she learned that the things were on sale, that the book club she had been meaning to join was scheduling a fall get-together. that the New Yorker had written about the Bosnian filmmaker in her work account. There were questions, there were concerns, and people were seeking Amanda's participation, her opinion, her guidance. Everyone had received her out-of-office reply, sunny and authoritative, but she broke the promise to be in touch upon her return. No, don't do X. Yes, email Y. Ask so-and-so about such and such. Just a reminder to follow up with that person about this matter. Her arm grew tingly from the exertion of holding aloft the too small phone. She flipped onto her stomach, the sheets warm from her body, so the transitive warmth against her vulva was that her own body, and flopping around in the bed was an act of masturbation. She felt clean, ready to feel dirty, but she worked her way through the emails, distracting herself until at last Clay came to her, smelling of furtive cigarettes and the lemon wedges in his vodka. The heat from the shower had softened her spine the way room temperature does a stick of butter. The occasional vinyasa class, vinyasa? I have no idea what that is, had made her more attentive to her bones. She let them give. She relaxed away from her usual resolve not to do the filthiest things they could conjure between the two of them. She let him knead his fingers into her hair and hold her firmly but gently against his pillow. Her throat a passage, a void to be filled. She let herself moan more loudly than she might have at home, because there was that long hall between them and the children's room. She bucked her hips back and up to meet his mouth. And later, it felt an eternity, but was only 20 minutes. She took his wilting penis into her mouth, marveling at the taste of her own body. Christ, Clay was wheezing. You have to quit smoking. She worried about cardiac event. They were not so young. Every mother had contemplated the loss of a child. Amanda had no emotions left around the theoretical death of her husband. She'd love again, she told herself. He was a good man. I do. Clay did not mean it. There was already a little pleasure in modern life. Amanda stood, stretched happily, sticky, wanting a cigarette herself. The dizzying effect would put her at some remove from what they had just done, which you needed after sex, even with a familiar. That wasn't really me. She opened the door, and the night was shocking with noise. Crickets or whatever bug that was, various, maybe sinister, footfalls, and the dried leaves of the woods beyond the lawn. The stealthy breeze moving everything. Maybe the vegetal growth actually made a sound. Even the barest scritch of the advancing grass. The heartbeat throb of the oak leaves flowing with chlorophyll. Amanda had a feeling like being watched. But there was no one out there, watching her, was there? An involuntary shiver at the very idea. Then a retreat into the adult illusion of safety. The two of them crept naked as Neanderthals across the deck, the only light, a slice of it falling through the glass door. Clay heaved the cover off the hot tub, and they sank into its froth, the steam obscuring his glasses, a satisfied, sensual grin. Her eyes adjusted to the darkness, his pale flesh in stark relief. She could see him as he was, but she loved him. So we'll wrap it up there. There's chapter 3, 4, and 5. I hope you enjoyed. And like I said, I'm off today, so I'll probably bank some episodes and try to get them all out tomorrow. And stay tuned.
We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings, secret proceedings. No official of my administration Hello? Would interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.